I live in the building just next to it, and we heard just like a loud crash, and then shortly after we walked outside and saw the whole section of the building gone.
We begin with breaking news tonight after part of an apartment building collapsed in downtown Davenport earlier today. Good evening, I'm Joey Danya. TV6's Kyle Dickens has been on the scene for us and joins us live now with the latest details on what happened there, Kyle.
Yeah, Joey, here's what we know now. The call came in around 5 o'clock for this partially collapsed building. This building is the Davenport. The Davenport is a 6-story residential and commercial structure here in downtown Davenport. We could also tell you that right now it is confirmed that there are missing and trapped individuals in this building. We've heard from both residents of the Davenport as well as city officials that did confirm that. Also, a reunification center has been set up at St. Anthony's Church here in downtown Davenport, and that is where Red Cross is on the scene helping individuals who are impacted by this and residents of the Davenport. We can also tell you that city officials have confirmed to TV6 that there have been numerous complaints filed with the city against the Davenport, and that was for various anything from building code violations to residents complaining about the structural integrity of the building itself. It's also confirmed to TV6 that the exterior area that was the area that collapsed was being worked on right before the collapse. City officials also confirmed that in the press conference that there was a permit taken out to do exterior brickwork to the building, and that is the area confirmed to us. That was the area that collapsed. Now, we've talked to some residents, a lot of residents very upset with the situation because they say this could have been avoided.
I was in my apartment, unit 515, and I was taking a nap because I'm getting ready to move. I'm getting ready to break my lease because this place is terrible. It's the worst place I've ever lived. Like, it felt like the whole thing was going to fall down. It felt like an earthquake or someone ramming a car into the building.
So, as you heard from those residents, very upset, very disgruntled. That was the scene. When we went into the Red Cross, or the area that the Red Cross was set up, that's all we heard. And when the press conference went on as well, we had a lot of upset people that were yelling and shouting and very upset with the situation. Just about a few minutes ago, here about 10 minutes ago, a Medforce helicopter has landed, and when they did land, they moved a stretcher, moving pretty quickly here to the scene, which what could presumably be to either be in waiting or ready to take anybody that, again, that may have been inside the trapped area, or inside the collapsed area, rather. Now, again, to recap here, what we can confirm is that there are people trapped inside, or confirm people missing at least, inside this building. City officials say this is only a search and rescue operation at this time and refuse to give any numbers or any other information at that. But they do say that this is going to be a lengthy process and certainly will be something that takes days, if not weeks, and maybe even months. Also can report to you that many state and city officials on scene, we've seen anybody from all city public works, talking to public works, city offices, police, fire, EMS, all on scene, along with state police. The mayor did confirm that the state of Iowa, including Governor Kim Reynolds' office, has been notified as well, and they're in contact with them as well. But again, to recap here, as you can see behind me, a good portion of the Davenport, which is a 6-story residential and commercial building, has collapsed. We'll continue to keep you updated throughout the news tonight and also online at KWQC.com. Reporting live in downtown Davenport, Kyle Dickens, KWQC TV6 News.
Thank you, Kyle. We are going to keep following this throughout the evening. We'll keep you updated on our website and news app.
News at 6.
I'm so happy you're okay.
This is God's work.
Right.
It really is. I just can't believe it. I just talked to my other brother. He said, man, he's looking at the news right now. He said, man, I don't know how you made it out. I said, I believe it. I know it's good.
First at 6 tonight, we are continuing to follow the rescue efforts in the building collapse in downtown Davenport. Good evening, I'm Paula Sands. Rhetoric is off. Crews are continuing to clean up after the apartment building on Main Street partially came down last night. Our team has the latest for you right now as we start with Kyle Dickens with more on the building itself. Kyle.
Paula, as we hit the 5 o'clock mark here, that marked the 24-hour mark since this disaster occurred. This disaster is at what is known as the Davenport. It's a 6-story residential and commercial structure that you see behind me here. It was a partial building collapse, but you can see a big chunk of that is gone here. I'll step out of the way and we'll zoom in here, and you can kind of see the scene here. So again, the Davenport was a 6-story residential and commercial building in the 300 block of North Main Street here in Davenport. All city officials and all city offices were on scene, along with MABUS, that's the mutual aid box alarm system, technical rescue teams, and then eventually demolition crews arrived late last night here in the evening hours on Sunday. MedForce landed at approximately 9:40 as well, but they did not take anyone from the scene. And this just into TV6. Davenport officials do confirm that 7 people have been rescued from the building, and 1 person was extracted from the rubble and rescued by medics, EMS, and fire. Their condition is unknown at this time. It does remain unconfirmed if there are any additional trapped, injured, or deceased people, although we can tell you this, that there are quite a few loved ones down here at the ground level talking about how they have not heard from their loved ones, and they are very concerned, as a lot of them have gone and sought to either through hospitals or other networks to try to get in contact with them. City officials do confirm that they have received complaints from residents in the past on the condition of this building. City officials did not comment further on any actions that were taken. And this just into TV6, the owner of the property has been served with a notice of an order for demolition of the property, and the property is currently being secured by a contractor on site. And this afternoon, and demolition is expected to take place come tomorrow morning. So that is the latest right now here in downtown Davenport. Right now, all you can hear is some buzzing of the fire alarms still in the building. Other than that, the scene, unfortunately, is rather calm as crews work to secure the scene itself, and the search and rescue effort continues. Reporting live in downtown Davenport, Kyle Dickens, KWQC, TV6 News.
Kyle, thank you. Now continuing our team coverage. Friends and family, Kyle just mentioned that. Many of those people who lived in the building, their friends are waiting in the streets for some word on their loved ones' whereabouts. They're saying they haven't heard from them since the incident last night. They just want to know they're safe. TV6's Larry Goodwin is downtown too. He had a chance to talk to some of those folks. Larry?
Paul, I spoke with Antoine Smith Sr., a resident here in Davenport, who said he has loved ones and friends that lived inside this building, and he has not heard from them yet. He says emotions are running high, and he wants some kind of information about their condition.
It's mainly emotions, and I'm not trying to hold on to my emotions and just let these people do their job, because they're here for a reason. But I just want some kind of information, like tell me something. Anything, like if you have found her and she's in the morgue somewhere, tell me something instead of just sitting here playing the waiting game.
Smith would also mention that he's trying to be empathetic about the situation and let first responders do their job, but said it's extremely hard. Smith would also say that the last time he spoke to his loved ones was on the other side of that building at 10 o'clock yesterday morning. In Davenport, Larry Goodwin, TV6 News.
All right, Larry, good work. Thank you. Now, in just this last hour, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds has issued a disaster proclamation in Scott County. This order activates the state's individual assistance grant program for those impacted by this partial building collapse. It provides grants up to $5,000 for households who meet certain income requirements. You can apply for those grants on the Iowa Health and Human Services website. The American Red Cross has set up an emergency shelter for those who are displaced, providing shelter, meals, and other necessities.
We do work with partner agencies, we work with local government entities, we work with police and fire organizations as well, and so those conversations continue. But again, this shelter is open and will continue to be open as long as is necessary. I mentioned some of the health and mental health services. Sometimes it takes a couple of days, and we hear from folks maybe then.
Groups accepting supply donations include this list: the Red Cross and Salvation Army, Quad Cities Community Foundation, Scott County Humane Society, U-Haul in West Davenport, and 4th Street Nutrition, all collecting donations to help those affected by the apartment collapse. And as the families make their way to the Red Cross Emergency Shelter tonight, many are wondering about other ways to help them if possible. So Kyle Keel is live in Davenport now, where one business is helping their neighbors who lost everything. Kyle?
Paula, the owners of 4th Street Nutrition were actually located on the first floor of the Davenport building behind me. Of course, they are now going to be displaced, but not knowing what the future holds for them, they decided to spring into action to help others who were displaced, mainly the residents that they saw on a day-to-day basis. Basically, what they did was went out to the stores and bought diapers, toys, clothing, food, anything that the duo thought that people needed. They sprung into action. We caught up with Toriana Hill. She and her young son were actually displaced from the building, the partial building collapse, and she recalls her experience and how grateful she is for the donations from 4th Street Nutrition.
I thought it was just loud sounds, but then I started hearing my neighbors scream, so that's when I realized it was real. So I grabbed him. He was sleeping, so I grabbed him, and then I left out the back stairwell. They brought me clothes, shoes, goodies for my baby, a stroller, pull-ups, diapers, feminine care, yeah, all the necessities. So thankful for it, so thankful for it, because we didn't have nothing. We don't have nothing. Yeah.
The owners of 4th Street Nutrition are continuing to collect money so they can continue to shop for others who have been displaced. If you would like information on how you can donate to them, we have that information on our news app as well as our website, KWQC.com. And also, we want to remind you that that Red Cross shelter is still open at KSI and will be as long as needed. And they wanted us to remind you that pets are welcome. Live in Davenport, Kyle Keel, TV6 News.
Kyle, thanks. Now, speaking of pets, incidents like this also affect our four-legged friends, and a local animal shelter is assisting in the aftermath of the collapse. TV6's Hernan Gutierrez found a pet owner relieved to be reunited with her dog.
As residents of the Davenport look for answers for how to even start rebuilding their lives, the Humane Society of Scott County reunited one resident with their furry friend this afternoon. After being separated overnight, Justice Jacobs and her dog Xenon were together once again, less than a day after the collapse of their building. Fortunately, the Humane Society was able to bring Xenon in and get in touch with Jacobs. She was at work when she heard news of the incident and was able to find temporary living arrangements thanks to a client.
Absolutely. Definitely in shock. It will not start setting in until probably it's over. I can't believe it's happening. I don't know what the next steps are. I can't believe it's happening to me.
Staff here at the Humane Society are encouraging residents of the Davenport to check here at the shelter for their lost pets. If you are looking to donate to those residents, pet supplies, food, anything you can think of, donations of that will be taken here any time of the day. If there's someone in the lobby, they'll come and take it. Otherwise, you can come to this bin and donate those pet treats or blankets here on this bin. In Davenport, Hernan Gutierrez, TV6 News.
We're also looking into the inspection history of that apartment building called the Davenport, downtown Davenport. We're going over the inspection records from the city, as well as gathering reports from current and former residents of that building about the conditions there. We'll have that story for you tonight at 10, and we're keeping you updated on the latest in the apartment collapse, on air, online. Download our news app or visit our website to get all the up-to-the-minute details.
Good evening. We begin with new developments in an apartment building collapse in downtown Davenport. It happened Sunday night in a 6-story building on Main Street, where several apartments on the back side of the building crashed to the ground. At first, city officials didn't have confirmation of anyone missing and planned to demolish the remaining structure. Tonight, that has changed. People turned out in protest after another resident was rescued last night, 24 hours after the collapse. And families came forward to report at least 2 people are missing. Tonight, the city says 5 people are unaccounted for, including 2 thought to still be inside. TV6 Investigates' Matt Christensen was at the scene today and met with building residents and questioned city officials. And Matt, what all did we learn from that news conference this morning?
Well, authorities have said there are major concerns that the rest of the building could collapse at any moment, and that's putting first responders in some major jeopardy. But at the same time, there are still people in the building. So just this afternoon, first responders went back in for another sweep, and we're told by local leaders that pets were found, but no people.
There's a lot of things that we have to factor. So understand, it's not that we don't want to do this, it's the fact that we have to do it in a safe manner. And at this point, we're going to reevaluate how safe we can be in order to get in there and not currently make the situation any worse. This building, as Chief Carlson talked before, Iowa Task Force 1 came in here. That's our state's regional expert team that came in here for urban search and rescue. And they, too, agreed with us that this building is extremely volatile. This building does need to come down, and it needs to come down in a controlled manner so that we do not create any more damage or lives lost.
Now, all this comes as the city announced yesterday that demolition would start this morning, and that's what triggered today's protests. But the officials today also said that demolition wouldn't start until they could do another sweep.
So, Matt, what is the plan to demolish the rest of the building then?
Well, it's on hold for the time being, and authorities are assessing whether it's safe to continue to search. But they again stress that this building is only being held up by the rubble.
People are also raising concerns about the building's past. What are they saying about that?
Well, I talked to a woman today who had lived on the 4th floor and was home during the collapse. She said she previously complained to landlords about problems, including cracks in the wall and mold. And we've repeatedly tried to contact the building owner, Andrew Wold, but he has not returned messages. Now, meanwhile, city officials have said they're familiar with the property because citizens have called the city to complain. Numerous permits have been issued for recent construction work, including the brickwork that was underway when the building collapsed. Now, those permits have to be approved by city inspectors, but KWQC has learned that the building failed its last inspection, which happened just on May 25th. And despite the failing grade, the report said work could proceed and that city inspectors would monitor.
Yes, the city has been in contact with the building owner. We are currently consulting with state agencies to figure out who's going to take the lead in this investigation. But at this time, we have not got to the point where we have determined if a criminal offense has occurred in order to initiate a criminal investigation. Regardless of what happens, there will be an investigation into how this happened. There must be.
Now, at the press conference, Mayor Mattson said they would be doing a thorough investigation into what caused the collapse.
The TV6 Investigates team is pursuing public documents that may shine more light on why the collapse happened. If you have information, you can contact the team at news@kwqc.com or submit a tip on our website or news app. Well, tonight we are hearing from the woman who was rescued from the building last night. Firefighters rescued Lisa Brooks from a window. She tells TV6 she had fallen asleep and never left the building.
I was sleeping in the tub. I didn't hear nobody come in. And when I woke up on the strength because I heard a voice. Anybody in the building? As the ladder come up to me to get me out the window. I was scared. I mean, I was real scared.
Well, there are still 5 people missing tonight. TV6's Larry Goodwin joins us now live from Davenport with how families of the 2 missing are feeling. Larry.
Sharon, we believe that 2 of those individuals were stuck inside the building when it collapsed. Those individuals are Brandon Colvin and Ryan Hitchcock. Now, we were able to catch up with some of their loved ones earlier, and they expressed how they're feeling and what they're going through right now.
Y'all want to tear down the building, and you know you got 5 people still unaccounted for. Help me understand that.
My cousin said he had just came home at 5 and he's tired, and when he get up, he's going to be able to come to the family gathering. So like 3 hours or more after that, the building collapsed. And we haven't seen my cousin Brandon Colvin since then or heard anything from him.
I don't believe he's alive. He's always helping people, and He's friendly. He's got some of my nicety that I have, so he's just, he's like, I think he's like 51 now.
Hitchcock mothers would go on to mention that she believes he was on the second floor when the building collapsed. In Davenport, Larry Goodwin, TV6 News.
All right, thank you, Larry. Now, for those driving in Davenport, 4th Street between Brady Street and Harrison Street is closed until further notice. All traffic heading west on 4th Street will have to turn on Brady Street. Drivers should expect delays and traffic backups during this closure, so prepare accordingly. Well, people who lived in the building are offered emergency shelter through the Red Cross, and now the shelter is moving to a new location. Instead of K-side, the shelter is moving to the former Select Specialty Hospital on West Kimberly Road. The new shelter will open tomorrow at noon. Any tenants and their pets are welcome.
I don't know that anybody can anticipate a building collapsing. And believe me, after this tragedy, this will be a conversation for a long period of time.
We are continuing our coverage on the partial building collapse of the Davenport apartments in downtown Davenport. Good evening, I'm Paula Sands. Today, city officials have given multiple updates on the crisis. Our team has gathered the latest information from those updates. So we start right now with Redrick Terry, live at the collapse scene. Redrick?
Paula, good evening from downtown Davenport, where people are still asking for answers from city leaders now 4 days after this partial building collapse at the Davenport apartment complex behind me. I want to step out the way and show you what's going on here, as we have seen some new activity here within the last hour. We did see the Iowa Task Force, members of the Iowa Task Force, about 15 of them, working their way into the building. So a search has started once again here within the last hour. We are also seeing some trucks bringing over materials, things like lumber, cinder blocks being brought in on wooden pallets. They're lining the street here on West 4th Street here in downtown Davenport as well. We're not sure at this point what those materials are for, what the city and crews here plan to do with them, but of course we're keeping up to date with that as we move along. Something else to note here, the wind starting to pick up quite a bit here in downtown Davenport. We're starting to see some of that debris start to sway a little bit on the building. We're starting to see some dust pick up as well, so that's something to keep in mind, especially when you talk about the amount of people that are still down here in downtown Davenport. That number has also increased over the last few hours. We've been here since a little bit before 4 o'clock this afternoon, and when we first got here there were only about a dozen or so people. That's now about doubled or tripled since then, but that's the scene right now, what we're seeing so far here in downtown Davenport. You know, Paula, you mentioned city leaders holding 2 separate news conferences today in an effort to get answers out to the community. Let's start with that first news conference. This happened about 10 o'clock this morning. We did learn more about that group of people who are unaccounted for. Police saying 3 people are still missing tonight. That's Brandon Colvin, Ryan Hitchcock, and Daniel Perrine. We're told all 3 believed to have been inside the building during the collapse, and all 3 lived in apartments that were in that initial collapse zone.
We still had a third unaccountable that we're working with the VA. His name is Daniel Perrine, 122462. His apartment was also related to the area where we had the collapse in the building. Right now, we don't have any family members. We're working on points of contact for our protocol for these individuals. They are entered in our national database as missing persons, but we'll continue to update you as we get additional information on that.
Now, a couple other points we wanted to mention that were brought up at that first news conference about 10 o'clock this morning. We did learn more about that computer glitch. What the city's calling a computer glitch led to an inspection permit for this building, the Davenport, showing passed when in fact it was incomplete. City leaders say a city employee actually incorrectly marked it as as passed, and when that work was then entered into the system, it was entered as passed on accident, when in reality the work here was incomplete. That was then changed to incomplete, and as a result of the computer glitch, it showed up on the website as failed. So that's just a little bit of insight into how that happened. That employee that initially marked it incorrectly, by the way, has since resigned. We learned that earlier today as well. And we also learned more about that $300 fine that was given to the owner of this building, that is Andrew Wold. City officials tell us that was really not about the amount of that fine. It was more so about doing that, issuing that legal action, therefore disallowing the owner to transfer the property to someone else in an attempt to avoid a lien, which more than likely will happen at this point. We are also, by the way, getting a look at these flyers. We mentioned those 3 people who are unaccounted for still tonight: Brandon Colvin, Ryan Hitchcock, Daniel Perrine. They are all now members of the National Missing Persons Database. So we're seeing these flyers being distributed right now, and no doubt we'll be seeing them for the time being here, at least for the foreseeable future. Now, as we mentioned, we did have another news conference that took place earlier today. That was just earlier this afternoon. We go now to TV6's Hernan Gutierrez, who was at that news conference. Hernan, what did we learn there?
Yeah, Redrick, that second press conference happened right around 2 this afternoon, where both the Red Cross and city officials touched on some of the assistance that's being provided to the residents of the Davenport here in downtown. That includes some financial resources for the residents of that building and the surrounding buildings, including the businesses in this area. The Red Cross has now moved its temporary shelter from KSI just next door to the old Select Hospital building right on Kimberly Road. They are using that for people who need overnight shelter or just need a break from the heat.
All different things. So if anybody has a special need, they can call 1-800-RED Cross, because we too realize there's some barriers to getting places and getting resources. So every day we are working on those issues.
Over 15 different community organizations are going to be down at the downtown YMCA here in Davenport Saturday from 10 in the morning to 4 p.m. To be able to help people sign up for financial assistance, find some temporary shelter, or sign up for things like their Social Security cards, their driver's license, those documents that they might need to start getting their lives back together. That's it for now. Back to you. Go.
All right, Hernan, thank you for that update. And that's now all for the scene that we have here. Obviously, still a pretty emotional scene. There's still several people here in attendance, and of course, an active scene in the Davenport as, again, crews have been inside looking at that building. And actually, as you can see here, as we step outside, some crews, and including a dog as well, apparently searching this building and searching the structure. Again, another sign that this is an active scene at this point. Crews are still searching right now. We're in place. We will keep up to date with this, and of course we will bring you all the latest updates later on tonight on the TV6 News at 10, as well as our TV6 News app and website. Until then, live in Davenport, Redrick Terry, TV6 News.
Redrick, thank you, and you as well, Hernan, live downtown Davenport. Now we tackle the question everyone's asking: could this have been prevented? And if so, how? We're hearing from people now who have worked with Andrew Wold, the owner of the building. And Matt Christensen has been looking into some new information that came about the state of the building, the condition of the building before it partially fell.
Sure, Paul. I talked to a licensed contractor named Chuck Noyd, who actually toured the building with Wold at the time of his purchase. He was serving as a consultant in terms of looking at the building and the integrity. Now, what he told us today was that what he saw were major cracks, structural problems, 2 to 3 inch cracks running up walls, and it was his conclusion that the building was uninhabitable.
I feel bad for all those folks, which is why I reached out, because I know there was issues before and had spoke out about it, and it was ignored. So I do believe this could have been avoided.
So there were all those documents, Matt, that the city released last night. What else have you found about those you want to bring out now?
Sure, there's hundreds of data points, and it's going to take reporters a long time to come through all this. But, you know, 24 hours in, we're seeing just a pattern of problems at the Davenport. Those included dozens and dozens of resident complaints about filthy conditions, garbage overflowing in dumpsters, leaky roofs, that sort of thing. You know, we'll also talk to another man tonight who is a maintenance supervisor on Wolt's properties, and he'll corroborate a little bit about what we're learning from the documents.
All right, there is a lot to unpack in this, isn't there, Matt?
Certainly, it's a huge story.
It sure is, and so thank you, Matt. So remember to catch our full investigative piece tonight at 10. Now, Rhetoric mentioned this. We want to show this to you, the video that just came into our newsroom. This is the Iowa Task Force Urban Search and Rescue Unit. They seem to be making preparations of some sort. We don't have exact information yet as to what they're doing there, what they're preparing for. We will keep you updated as we learn more about